Imagine what it would be like for you to have everything that you could have ever imagined. How would that feel like in your body? And now, if you were to feel that in your body, hold on to that, and then go out into the world and act from that place, how would that person behave? How would that person act? And then fake it till you make it, or be it until you become it. What's up? My name is Devon. Welcome to this podcast. I am going to do my best to explore all of my ideas and philosophies and things that hopefully help you somewhere along the way in your journey. I don't know if I'm going to turn this into a long form thing or not. I'm going to try to answer as many questions or curiosities that I possibly can. It's mostly going to be for clips. I'm just going to chop out some of my ramblings to help kind of bring some awareness and exposure to the rest of the things that I'm up to. If this does work out, really awesome. I'll turn it into a more consistent, ongoing podcast. And if you have any questions or this sparks any ideas or thoughts, drop them in the comments anywhere you do find this. And in a future or follow-up episode, I'm going to do my best to try to address as much of the ideas and things that come up along the way. So today, I thought I'd just kind of start with some broad general perspectives, ideas, thoughts, just to kind of get the soup warmed up, if you were. So let's jump into it and see where we land. So when I'm looking back at the version of myself who was married, had an abundant social life, I had this idea kind of built around who I thought I was going to be and who I was becoming, and then one day I wake up and it's all gone, and I'm fighting to hold on to whatever it is that I can, but at the same time, there's a part of me that just sort of accepted it and wanted to rip the Band-Aid off. Like, I wanted to just go through this stuff and kind of like get to the other side of it, because just being stuck and caged in and trapped in with all of that pain is the only thing that I can express. Like, my kid was 2 years old at the time, I think, give or take. And it was my understanding that I didn't really have any power in the whole situation. And so there was this moment where we were kind of like loading things into her mom's SUV and strapping my son in, and he's crying and freaking out and doesn't understand what's going on. And I'm crying and freaking out because I think I'm never going to see him again. And um, I knew there was like a whole bunch of things that all just became very true that I just couldn't navigate mentally or emotionally, which was just that I was completely helpless. I thought that the damage that I had done was so deep that it didn't matter what I did from that point forward. The person that I was with would never trust me ever again, would never give me the benefit of the doubt or allow me any room or space to come back in. And I just thought this was going to be an onward, um, uphill battle forever, because when you have a kid, it's not just like a one-time thing. This is like for the rest of your life. This person is going to be in my life whether I like it or not. And so in those moments where it was all kind of coming crashing down or whatever, there was a lot of processing that was kind of happening for me. So like, understanding now, th- the thing that I didn't really see back then was that, like, as dark and hopeless and powerless as I thought I was in those moments, all it took was just continuing through the work, continuing down that path. I'm staying in the pain, feeling all of the emotions that were there, and processing it as I was going through it all, only to find out on the other side that, hey, actually, those things that I was kind of making up in my mind weren't very true. They weren't reality. They were just scenarios that I was kind of building around the current state of my emotions, not even reality. It was just the way that I was feeling. Fear is such a powerful emotion, and it grips you and it holds on and it won't let go. And no matter what you do, you're kind of stuck and you're caged into that. And so looking back, I guess the thing that I understand now about that is, like, life does go on, it does get better, it does get easier, and the thing that made it so was a willingness in those moments to do whatever it took to get rid of the pain. And I don't know, like, a lot of people who are in those scenarios, um, go very deep into depression and suicidal ideation and a whole bunch of other really, really negative things. And if there was anything that I could share with you from my own experience, it's just to, as real as they might feel, ignore those thoughts and emotions and things that kind of come up in those times. Allow them to come in, sit with them, and then usher them out as quickly as you can and try your best. I know that in the moments of pain, how difficult that is, but to just usher those feelings through so that you can kind of come back to a state of balance. That's just a state of peace or a state of acceptance. And there is like there is some truth to that um idea of the different stages of grieving and different stages of loss. And if you are aware of that and have that presence of mind when you're going through these things, to be able to, at least from like a meta level, like observing yourself in these things, you'll be able to identify which of these stages you're in, and just kind of um, go through them intentionally, feeling all the things that you're feeling. But just remember, like, it's just time and distance from those moments that make it easier to overcome. It makes it less. The analogy that I like to use when I'm kind of describing this with my clients or the people that I work with is, imagine right now your feelings are kind of in a box, right? Life is a ball, and inside that box is a button, and the ball is bouncing around the box, and every time it hits the button, that emotion comes back up. And this is the waves, it comes in waves whenever you're feeling these types of emotions, especially grief or pain or deep emotion like this. And so the ball is big and the button is big and it's bouncing around. It doesn't matter what you do, where you turn, who you look at, or what you're doing in your life. The button is going to get pressed and it's going to trigger you. It's going to hurt and it's going to bring up all of those things. And so you just have to be with them while that's happening. And then as time goes on, the ball starts to shrink and so does the button. And the ball might be bouncing around and it still hits the button, but the button's a little bit smaller, so it's not as loud and the alarm bells don't ring quite as powerfully. And over time, it's not that the button is never going to get pushed by that ball. It's that when the button does get pushed, it's few and far between and it's smaller and it's lesser. And if you are intentionally building your life through these experiences, that box gets a little bit bigger. And all of the traumatic experiences that you have in your life, whether it's the loss of a relationship or the loss of a friend or a family member or a death or a pet or some betrayal, or all the things that we grieve when we've perceived that we've lost something, those buttons appear all over the box. And as long as you continue to expand the box and allow yourself to manage that ball, those buttons don't get pressed quite as often. And so you kind of you're able to navigate through life. Not that if you're not going to come upon storms and rough waters, but at least you can navigate through it with intentionality and purpose in pursuit of something of higher meaning. And so, I mean, that's part of, looking back at where I was before and where I am now. Like, I didn't really truly understand my purpose and my role as a man in this world. And now, as I've evolved and gone through all this stuff, those are the things that I start to see now. Going through all of that as a catalyst, because I mean, my life before that was a mess too. This was just like the straw that broke the camel's back. This is kind of like the end, the turning point, the moment where something had to be done. So part of me was attached to this story that I had been telling myself ever since, as for as long as I can remember, about my life and what it meant and all the things that happened to me and what they meant and how that kind of built who I was, and um, all of those things come together now, and then you have this catalyst moment, and you're like, "Okay, well, what do we do from here?" And this version of myself right now, it didn't work. Like, it didn't it wasn't able to continue or keep or sustain whatever the life was that I was creating. And I mean, I was kind of bottle fed that idea that you grow up, you get a job, you grow up, you go to school, you get a job, you find a wife, you get married, you have kids, you save for your retirement, and then you go on a couple of crazy trips when you're in your 60s, and then you die. And I was kind of like the millennial package that was given to us in terms of like, hey, here's the life, this is the thing, this is the dream, this is the whatever you're in pursuit of. And I mean, I didn't fully buy in or subscribe to it, but it didn't stop me from still trying to play my part, still trying to do the thing. So that's why I married young and I had my child young. I mean, young-ish. I was 28 when my son was born. So, I mean, I wasn't old, but I wasn't young like a kid. I figured I was ready around that time. And so coming to this point where there's this a catalyst where the whole thing falls over, like the ship is capsized, and everything that I thought was true was no longer my reality. There came a moment where I was like, okay, well, I can't be that anymore. The story that I've been telling myself, the things that I've been saying, the path that I had been on was not getting me to the thing that I wanted in life. And even in that, like even in saying that, looking back, I'm like, well, what what was the thing that I wanted? What was that I was in pursuit of? And I know in hindsight, looking back, although I don't subscribe to the typical rules, like if an entrepreneur, I built my own business, I have been unemployable for the last 20 years of my life. So like I didn't follow the traditional path. I didn't go to school. I dropped out. I didn't get a college degree. I just forged my own path, my own way. So okay, some parts of who I was were true and some parts of who I was were not. So what does that mean for me in those moments now of like, okay, I gotta shift gears, I gotta change from this to this. And you read this, like I'm reading books about my ego, like Eckhart Tolle, a New Beginning, and Death of the Ego was Ryan Holiday. Like there's all these things, like ideas about like who you think you are and how you present yourself to the world. And I just felt like I was faking it. I had a mad imposter syndrome. I just didn't feel like I belonged in any of the places that I went into. And in these kind of transitionary periods of my life when I was learning, like, okay, well, like, what did I do wrong? Where did I get it all wrong? Why did my marriage end in divorce? And, why can't I keep meaningful friendships and relationships in my life? And so I'm like, I'm doing a lot of this, like, radically honest, introspective work. And I just stumble upon this realization that everybody is faking it. Everybody is pretending to be something, and some of them do it really, really well, and some of them don't do it at all. And those people are very rare, and some of them are doing it and they don't know that they're doing it. Some of them are doing it and just won't admit that they're doing it. But for the most part, everybody is just winging it. They're making it up as they go, they're faking it, and their ego is protecting them by making them believe that what they're up to is true. But they all suffer from the same thing. They all have this same kind of imposter syndrome. Here's the story where I can tell you the light bulb turned on for me. So I'm single. It's been a few months. I've been reading books and like watching podcasts, and I'm doing my thing, and I'm trying to like, okay, I think I'm ready to just like put myself out in the world. I can't sit here in my house and rot in the dust and dirt anymore. I got to go do something. So I got myself together. I went out all by myself. I drove downtown. I parked outside of a bar that I knew was like a happening joint. Every time you drive by this place, Ship and Anchor downtown, there's always a crowd. There's always something going on. So I was like, okay, I want to hang out there. I pull up, I park my car, get out and walk in, and like it just hits me this feeling of like just the anxiety, like I'm a loner dude who's just like this loser who's divorced, who's can't keep a wife. Like I was so down on myself, and I almost turned around and left, but I kind of like forced myself to just go in. It's too late. You've come this far. You have to keep going. So I go in. I sit down, I order a basket of fries and I order a beer, and I'm like in my head and I'm like, you know, I'm like triggered to like pull my phone out and like go on my phone and just like sit there and like doom scroll by myself. But I was like thinking to myself, if I do that, there is zero chance that any single person is going to even want to talk to me. So now I'm just sitting in this like limbo where I'm like I don't want to pull out my phone, but like I'm bored and I'm just sitting here staring and I'm drinking a beer by myself, eating some fries. Like, where do you look? Where do you put your eyes when you're in a bar? It's just full of people and you're all by yourself. I'm not. I don't have the courage to like go up to people or do any of that stuff. And so I'm just like forced into this moment where I'm looking around through the bar and I see across the way somebody looking at me. And the second our eyes catch, I saw something in him that was familiar to me. It was like, I know that feeling that that guy is having, and I've looked away, obviously, and I'm just like I'm kind of, like, internally processing what just happened, and it dawned on me that the anxiety that I'm feeling about being judged by all the people in this room for being the single loser guy by himself, eating fries and drinking a beer in the middle of a bar, that same, like, embarrassment and whatever and, like, shame and those gross feelings, that guy had them, and I could see them in his eyes, and he was, like, afraid that I was judging him when I looked at him, and I realized that he thought that I was more powerful than he was in that moment because how could any dude just sit by himself, eat surprise, and drink a beer for no good reason, and it just, like, it clicked. Oh my god, everybody has this same feeling of I'm being watched and I'm being judged. And if that's true, they don't have any bandwidth in their mind because I know what that feeling is like. They don't have any bandwidth in their mind to be judging me because they're too busy judging themselves from how I see them or any other person in that room. And this is where um, this saying, I've said it before, and I can't stress it enough. You're not who you think you are. You're not who I think you are. You are who you think I think you are. So in that moment, I think that guy thinks that I'm a loser. And so I'm like feeling like a loser. And then when I realized that he is looking at me like I'm this like lone wolf, cool guy who's able to just go out by himself, have a good time, drink a beer, and eat some fries by himself, doesn't need nobody. That's how he sees me, and all of a sudden I'm powerful. All of a sudden I'm like full and rich and I can do anything. I this like superpower unlocks in me and I'm excited about it. And at the same time, I like kind of like giggle to myself. And I hung out until I finished my beer and I finished my fries and I was like, wow, this is like an eye-opening experience, but I've had enough. I gotta go. And so I got up and I left the bar, and that moment has stuck with me ever since. And so, okay, if that's true, let's bring this back to the fake it till you make it thing. I don't believe in fake it till you make it because you're still faking it once you've made it. But what I do believe in is acting as if it's true, which is kind of the same as faking it, until it is true, which is not making it, it's becoming it. So the exercise, the practice, the thing that I love to get people to do, especially when this is like something that they're dealing with, is imagine for a moment what it would feel like in your body if the following were true. You are an all-powerful being capable of anything and everything, who is confident and has anything and everything that you need. You have all the friends and all the money and all the love and in romantic relationships, like any material object you could ever imagine. Like if that was true, how would it feel in your body? And I want you to just like examine that all the way down to your toes and feel it kind of rise up through your legs, into your belly, into your chest, out through your arms, up through the top of you, and just feel what that feeling would be like if it was true. And then go out into the world and try to hold on to that feeling as long as you possibly can and see how differently you act in the world. And when you do that, see, and this is what I love about it. A lot of people think that you have to have stuff so that you can be the guy and do the things that a guy like that would do. The reality is that it's completely the opposite. You have to be the guy and do the things the guy does so that you can have the things that you want on the other side of this. So that's what I mean by the fake it till you make it. I still feel like it's an act, and I think even when you make it, you're still faking it, and you still have that imposter syndrome. You still feel like you don't belong. And I know guys who make millions of dollars and still just like they have social anxiety. They're scared to go out into the world. They can't connect with other people. And so they just like buy their way there. And then they have tons of drinks. And after they've had tons of drinks and they're drunk and their inhibitions have gone away, all of a sudden they're the cool guy, but they can't keep that up forever because you know how booze gets. But um if you become that person and do the things that that person would do, then you can have what that person would have, which is the fulfillment, the purpose, and the meaning in life. So that's what I mean by um, fake it till you make it. I love the idea of it, but in practice, it's a little broken. And so if we just make these minor shifts to it, I think that that's how people can improve by applying that principle. Once you move past this idea of being the guy doing the thing, having the things that a guy like that has, you kind of like you put yourself into a situation now to start exploring what romantic relationships mean to you and looking at it from the perspective of, okay, I'm going out into the world and I'm trying to find somebody to make my life a little bit better. Um, here and this is where the difficulty is if you go out into the world in the state that you're currently in, I want you to imagine that you have an empty cup, and so everywhere you go with this empty cup, you keep begging people like, "Please, can I have a little bit of that? Please, can I have a little bit of that?" Because you see this person with a little bit of joy, and you see that person with a little bit of laughter, you see that person with a little bit of, like, goals accomplished, you see that guy with a little bit of health, and you're like, "Please, can I have some? Please, can I have some?" And going to all these people and begging for these things, imagine what you would feel like if somebody came up to you with a cup and jingled some change and said, "Hey, you know, empty your pockets for me." That's how most people go out into the world, is with an empty cup. And so learning about who you are and what fills your cup in these early stages of development when you're kind of figuring this stuff out, once you've unlocked that superpower of like, okay, everybody's judging themselves on my behalf, and that makes me invisible, and it's easier for me to navigate the world in spite of my own thoughts and anxieties. And so anytime I have that, I can get rid of it. And so, okay, now I have to go out into the world and I have to be useful. I have to provide value because look at the way that in a relationship, it's a reciprocating exchange of bringing energy into other people's lives. So somebody's going to give you something from their life. You're going to give them something from their life. Not that you need to keep score or that you should be, you know, looking at keeping tabs on who's giving you what and who's doing what. That's transactional. I've covered that in some of my other clips. And if you want to drop some comments or whatever questions about that, and I'll go a little bit deeper into that. But just to keep us kind of on track with this idea, if you do things that fulfill yourself and you fill your own cup, then you go out into the world with a full cup and you're not begging anybody else, but you become the person whose cup is full and other people come to you looking for that energy because you have that energy, you have that happiness and positivity and that glow and that light in your eyes and all of the things. You have purpose, you walk with meaning, and you're doing things and you're enjoying your life, and other people see that in you and they want to be a part of it. And so they come to you with their cups and looking for you to overflow into them. So how do we do that, right? What do we I'd like to start with understanding what your love languages are, what speaks love into you, what makes you feel fulfilled, what brings things to you. So, breaking it down, there is acts of service, there's words of affirmation, there's physical touch, there's gifts, and then there's quality time. So, if in your life you feel fulfilled when somebody spends meaningful one-on-one intentional time with you where their attention is undivided and entirely and wholly on you, then your love language is primarily going to be quality time. If you love when somebody goes somewhere and picks up a little trinket and brings it back and then shares that trinket with you because it makes you feel like they thought of you even in your absence, then that might mean that your love language is gifts. If you love when you're sitting with somebody and they stroke your hair or they give you a back rub or they hold your hand or they hug you when they greet you, then this one's really obvious. Your love language is going to be physical touch. If you love when people boost you up and they talk about you and they tell everybody how awesome you are and they tell you you're awesome to your face, your love language might just be words of affirmation. And if you like when somebody does the chores, they wash the dishes, they do the laundry, they mow the lawn, or they clean out the car for you, or they, stop for a car wash, then your love language might be acts of service. Now, if some more than one of those things resonated with you, you're totally normal. That's most people. We don't have one primary love language. We have multiple, and some of them are a little bit more dominant than others. So, take all of this with a grain of salt. It isn't that one is law and that's just the way that it is. For me, quality time is a good one. Physical touch is my primary. I love acts of service, but words of affirmation also feel like something really, really good. But gifts are icky to me. I don't like when people buy me gifts. I don't know how to act. It just feels weird. That's just the way that I am. So when we look at these love languages and what makes us feel like we are loved and like we belong, if you have a clearer identity of what those are, a clearer understanding of what those are to you, then you can go out into the world and you can find ways to fill your cup with those things. And this isn't necessarily doesn't mean to just go out into the world and ask people for these things, but you have relationships where, hey, if quality time is something that matters to you and that makes you feel fulfilled, if you spend quality time with somebody, go hang out with your friend or your dad or your mom or your siblings or your cousin or whoever, just anybody that's going to be able to fulfill you in a way where you're getting undivided attention from somebody without having to demand it from them. And I'm sure that you have somebody in your life that is true. And all you have to do is just reach out to that person and plan a date and then go on that date and have that date and do that thing. Even if it's a homie, who cares if it's a homie date, whatever, it is what it is. That's one way so you can start filling your cup. If there are some other ones where it's a little bit more complicated, like, maybe touch or gifts or things like that. But pay more attention to when those things are happening to you and allow that to fill your cup. Now, on the other side of this, there is not just the way that you receive love, there's the way that you give love. And for some people, they receive love in a way and then they give love in a completely different way. Like for me, I love physical touch, head scratches, and a little bit of a back massage. That's how I feel loved. But the way that I show love is by doing things for people. So acts of service is the thing that I do. Um, I'm not that bad at words of affirmation. I love giving compliments whenever whenever it feels natural. I don't obviously want to sound disingenuous, but so here's the flip side to this on the other side. We feel most truly happy, most truly fulfilled when we are useful, our purpose is fulfilled, and we are doing something for other people. We're in service of others. And so, in understanding your love languages and finding purpose, meaning, fulfillment, and filling up your own cup, it's not just about the receiving of those acts, it is about giving those acts to other people. So, find ways, find people in your life, find avenues where you can be useful and you can give that love language to other people so that in those acts, you're able to fill your own cup. And once your cup is full, it will continue to overflow, and this energy will continue to recharge inside of you because you become the conduit. And this is how God and the universe and everything else, the natural state of things is for you to be the conduit for the energy to flow through. And if you are not, and your cup is empty, that's why you're not feeling those feelings. If you can fill your cup and then overflow and then go find more people to flow into, then it will be an everlasting state of fulfillment, of meaning, and of purpose. Because when you look at it from the perspective of paradigms, of frames, of lenses, the way that you see the world, the lens that you see the world through, uh, most people operate in that empty cup state, which is a state of scarcity. And if you feel like you don't have things, you act differently than if you have too much of something. If you only had one car, I know this is going to be a little bit dramatic, but if you only had one car, you're going to treasure that car. You're going to baby that car. You're going to take care of it. You're going to do the oil changes. It's going to be your only source of transportation. So you have to make sure that you maintain it. You're not just going to give it to anybody to use as everywhere, however they see fit. You want to protect it because what if somebody crashes that car, or they're driving recklessly and the police tow it because they got a ticket or whatever. You know what I mean? Um, but imagine you had 100 cars. If you had 100 cars, would you worry about lending one to a friend? Probably not. What if you had 100 cars and $100 million in the bank? So even if you lent out that car and you gave it to somebody and they crashed it, or the police took it away because the guy was driving like a crazy maniac or whatever, you lost that car. That's okay. You can just buy a new one and replace it. and it's not even gonna have a dent in the amount of money that you have. Well, you're acting completely differently from that state of abundance. And so looking at it from this perspective, if you feel like you are in a state of scarcity, it becomes your only task to shift into a state of abundance. Now, this starts with adopting the idea that you are somebody who deserves abundance. Because I know a lot of people, when they hear this idea of like, you should have a lot of money. Okay, well, if I should have a lot of money, that would make me evil. Oh, this is a perfect example. I use this a lot, actually. What is your feeling about billionaires? If I say the word billionaire and your first thought is like, oh, those guys are evil and they're taking over the world and they're terrible people and, they're crazed maniac psychopaths. Okay. What about millionaires? What's your feeling on millionaires? If you're like, oh, those guys are a bunch of assholes or, dicks, just a bunch of jerks, drive around in big trucks, whatever, Ferraris and Mercedes Benz and stuff like that. Okay, so you see people who have a lot of money as bad people, and your ego is going to do anything and everything it can to protect you. And so if you think that having money equals evil, and you don't see yourself as evil, then you will never allow yourself to have money. And however this manifests or shows up in your life, it means that you're not going to pursue your job opportunities and growth inside of your employment in any meaningful way, because if you do get to that, next level, then you become the jerk who's the boss, who's just like bossing everybody around, treating everybody like shit, because that's how you think that those people are behaving. And it's some of them, barring some of them, might truly just be jerks and assholes. I'm not saying that that's true for everybody, but um, when you are operating from this place where you believe that those people are bad people, then you're going to protect yourself from not becoming a bad person, and you're not going to allow that or accept that or welcome that into your life. Now, if on the flip side here, we take an abundant mindset and we think, hey, you know what money is? It's just a resource. Money just amplifies the person who has it. And if you're a good person and you have money, then you're going to do good things. And like it or hate it or whatever, let's look at a guy like Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast starts this channel, YouTube channel, starts making content for YouTube in his backyard with his buddies, and he becomes obsessed with this idea of making videos for YouTube, because eventually he's going to get a sponsor and make a little bit of money. And so he just keeps making videos, and every time he puts a video out, he analyzes it, and he becomes so obsessed that he surrounds himself with friends and groups, family members who are also obsessed with, how do we do this the best way possible? How do we make the best possible video to get the most possible attention, the most possible eyes? And he keeps iterating on this over and over and over and over again until he becomes the most subscribed YouTuber in history, and uh, eventually becomes a billionaire himself. Now, here's what happens. There's two schools of thought here, depending if you're a scarcity mindset or you're an abundance mindset. He creates content that people want to watch. Otherwise, people wouldn't watch it. So, understanding that, what do people like to watch? Well, people like to watch contests. People like to watch people try things and fail or succeed or win or lose or whatever. Think about sports. We watch sports. We go back into the, ancient medieval days and we watch the gladiators. Like it was always, we like to watch people compete or in contest to achieve something, to win something. So, okay, he puts up a prize of, let's say, $100,000 and says, okay, I have a challenge for this person, that person, or group of people, whatever. Go do this specific task, and I have $100,000, and I'm just going to give to you if you complete that task. If you successfully compete and win to achieve that outcome, I will give you $100,000. People volunteer to do that so that you, or maybe not you, if you don't like Mr. Beast, whatever, that's fine, but people, hundreds of millions of views on every single video. People come, they flock to these videos, they watch these videos, they watch people compete to either win or lose. And that's the risk that those people take, and they take it willingly. Now, if I gave you a chance right now, you're watching this video, if I said I could give you $100 million if you could crack a secret code out of all the words that I've said so far in this podcast, and you put that code in the comments, and I'll give you $100,000. And as soon as I do that, I want to take a picture with you and handing over that check. Are you going to say yes or no? Of course, you're going to say yes, because otherwise you would never have a chance at getting $100,000 unless you like worked really hard and earned it your own on your own. That's the point of these contests. Now, some people who are in a scarcity mindset are going to make the argument that Mr. Beast is exploiting poor people. Now, coming from that perspective of Mr. Beast is exploiting people to garnish views is kind of a catch-22, because if it wasn't for the viewers, he wouldn't have the millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars to give to the people to do the contest to begin with. So this is just a loop. You watch, he gets the money, he gives the money to somebody so that you watch. You watch, he gets money, he takes that money, gives it to somebody, and this continues. This loop continues. Now, what's even more than that? Let's just say he takes the money, and instead of holding a contest, he does something that nobody else would do. A crazy, crazy challenge. I'm gonna give eyesight to 1,000 people. All of a sudden, he's exploiting 1,000 people to get views. Hang on a second. The people that are watching that because that's an incredible thing for somebody to do. And he's taking the money that he's earned from people watching it because it's an incredible thing. And then he's paying for those eye surgeries for those people to be able to see again. That's the loop, right? So that's the state of abundance. Money is a resource. It comes to me so that I can do good for others and be in the service of others. And when you are somebody like Mr. Beast, that becomes the loop. And you see how it can become a never-ending loop of abundance versus somebody who's just in a state of scarcity, who will not participate in any of these things, will never do anything good for other people, will never acquire the resources to be able to even do something like that because they can't see the good in what the person is doing. All they see is evil, and they can't align themselves with the evil, which who would, right? That makes sense. That part makes sense. Don't align yourself with evil. But if you come from a place of scarcity, you're always going to maintain that scarcity. So the way that we correct this, the thing that we do to fix this, to break out of that state, I said earlier, imagine what it would be like for you to have everything that you could have ever imagined. How would that feel like in your body? And now, if you were to feel that in your body, hold on to that, and then go out into the world and act from that place, how would that person behave? How would that person act? And then fake it till you make it, or be it until you become it. You see, the idea is that a lot of the world around us is the way that it is because of what happens internally. The thoughts that we have internally shape the world around us. We go out into the world and we observe things, and those observations become hypotheses. We make guesses to see how true something is. And then when we observe that the result of our testing, those observations become our beliefs. And then our beliefs shape the way that we behave, and our behaviors become habits, and those habits become the rewards that we reap. They become the outcomes that we achieve in our life. And so if what we've observed is that people are all evil when they reach a certain amount of money, then we believe that to be true, and we behave as though having money means that we become evil, and we ward it off, we push it away, we keep it away from ourselves. Anytime we get it, like, you just have silly little habits. Like, instead of at the end of your paycheck, sometimes you got a little bit extra paycheck at the end of your paycheck. Well, you take that paycheck and you just spend it. Next time you go to Walmart, you grab a couple of things extra that you didn't necessarily need, that are only going to momentarily make you a little bit tiny happy, and then you're going to forget about it, and then you're going to move on with your life, and you're going to reset, and this thing keeps happening over and over again. But if you just took $100 every paycheck and you put it into an ETF with dividend paying, recurring revenue over a longer period of time, you're going to compound money and become wealthy, and then have uh, opportunities that you would never have otherwise had. I call this fuck you money, where you get to a point where you don't like the way that your boss is treating you, and you, instead of being scared of losing your job, you have a nest egg of a couple $1,000,000 just sitting there in funds that you could just cash out and live off of for the next 10 years. Even if you didn't want to go back to work, you can tell your boss confidently to fuck you and go get another job and not worry about that transitionary period disrupting your life in any way. And so that becomes the name of the game, is to go out there and achieve that and do those things. But if your belief is that money equals evil, and I don't want to be evil, and so you see how the way that we behave is all stemmed from the beliefs and things that we've observed. Now, sometimes the things that we observe in real life are anomalies or not true, or they are only true a part of the time, and we apply this idea or logic to make it permanent or make it more than what it is. And so this is where we create these mental barriers that are holding us back from achieving the things that we're capable of. It's these made up scenarios in our head. Now I'm going to use this as an example. I think I talked about this in another interview that I was on, but let's say right now I challenged you. I said, okay, look at the way that you're showing up in your work that you're doing right now. If you walked up to your boss today and said, hey boss, I think I deserve a 10% raise in my salary, how do you think your boss is going to respond to that? And now watch what happens when I ask you that question. You're going to play it out. You're going to think about, okay, I'm going to walk up to my boss. I'm going to say, hey, boss, I need 10% raise in my, and then he's going to look you right in the face, call you a moron, tell you if you ever have the audacity to ask for another raise again, he's going to kick you out of the building the second that you finish saying that sentence. Get back to work, you lazy bum, and stop bothering me with your nonsense. And then you're going to feel like shit for doing it because you just got rejected and you don't want to really be at work anymore because this is awkward. Like now you got to like see that person. And okay, well, now you're just not going to do it. So we created a made up scenario, and that created enough fear to stop us from doing the thing. And now we just stay in the exact space that we were in. Nothing ever changes. Now, if your thought pattern was a little bit different, like, oh, you know what, I've been phoning it in for a while. I'm not really doing my job very well. And if I did ask my boss that, he already knows that I'm not doing a great job. I already know I'm not doing a great job. So I'm definitely not going to do that. Okay. So what's stopping you from making a change to fix that? What's stopping you from doing a little bit more at work? It might be a false mental barrier that you've created, a belief that you hold true that isn't necessarily true. For example, don't do more work than what you're being paid for. This is crabs in a barrel mentality. Somebody else who doesn't want to do more work, who has no aspirations in life, doesn't want to look bad, and so they give you that same advice. They say, hey, don't do more work. You're not going to get rewarded around here. People are jerks. Da, 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 da. They're going to say all the things that you say, and then you're, oh, okay, yeah, I'm just going to phone it in too. And you see how that ideology breeds and becomes a mind virus, and it infects everybody around that person. But let's just say, for example, that guy did work hard for what he perceived to be working hard for a very short period of time. Let's just say what he thought would be ample amount of time, but it was only a couple of weeks. And then he didn't immediately get promoted to the supervisor. And so he was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm not doing this work anymore. And so he doesn't do the work. And that's where his belief came from. And so now he gives you that belief, and then you're going to hold on to that belief as if it is true. This happens with so much that we do. I remember when I was younger reading a study about um, chimpanzees in a cage, and what they would do was they put a ladder, and I'm probably butchering this, but just look this up. The gist of it is they put a ladder in the room, and then they put their food, a bushel of bananas or whatever it was, at the top of this ladder. And then anytime any one of the monkeys in the room would try to go up that ladder to get the bananas, they would spray them, hose them down, and freak them out and play loud noises or whatever, like scare them, make them feel like they shouldn't be doing that, punish them, so that eventually the 5 chimpanzees that were in that room would no longer go up the ladder to try to get the food that was at the top of the ladder. Now, that's not the profound part, because you could just condition people mentally by doing something like this. It was what happens after this. So now what they do is slowly over time, they take one of the chimpanzees out and replace it with a brand new chimpanzee. And that brand new chimpanzee has no idea what's going to happen. He sees the food at the top of the ladder and starts climbing the ladder and tries to get it. And all the other chimpanzees start freaking out, beat this new one up, make sure that it doesn't climb the ladder because they all don't want to get wet when they turn on the hoses and spray everybody and freak everybody out. But they don't do that. They just let the chimpanzees punish this new chimpanzee. Now, they keep doing this over and over and over again until there's a new set of chimpanzees who have never experienced the actual punishment of climbing up the ladder, getting sprayed, and everybody freaking out. They all have been conditioned by a previous generation of chimpanzees. So I want you to just think about, what are the things that I believe that might not be true that are holding me back from actually doing something meaningful in my life? Like, for example, walking up to a girl and saying hi, introducing yourself, letting her know that you think that I saw you from a distance. I think you're kind of cool. I don't know. You want to hang out for a bit? Let's see if that's true. That belief that you can't do that because you're going to get rejected. She's going to make fun of you. You're going to die alone and be forever alone. And the only way that you can get in a relationship is if you have a long-term friendship with somebody and eventually break your way out of the friend zone. So, okay, that belief is not true. It's just not true. You can literally just walk up to any single human being ever on planet Earth, introduce yourself, say hi with a bright smile on your face, a genuine bright smile on your face, and most of the time get a good result. That doesn't mean that you're going to marry or sleep with every single person that you walk up to. However, if you put yourself out there, you stand more of a chance of achieving some level of success. And so the thing that's stopping you is the fear, the made-up scenario that you have in your head that's playing out, the one that you're creating. It's not even real. It's the one you're creating, and you're acting as if it's true. So this is where they bring in the idea of rejection therapy or whatever. And I mentioned on a previous clip, like, I'm not a fan of rejection therapy because I think that it comes with a whole bunch of other sideline things. Like, if you're not properly managing your way through rejection therapy, it can actually work completely the other direction and make you even worse. Because, how do you stop yourself from thinking the things that you're thinking without intentionally being thoughtful about what you're thinking about? And this is meta awareness of your own thoughts and your own thinking, which is another thing we'll get into on another episode. But for now, uh, that's the exercise, is to um, do a countdown. This is the thing that this is how I coach my clients or the people that I work with. Is when you have a thought to go do a thing, let's say, hey, I think that person's very interesting or pretty or whatever, and I want to walk up to that person. I want to say hi. I want to introduce myself. Instead of sitting there and doing nothing, ruminating on it for a few moments, talking yourself out of it, creating fake scenarios that would never happen, I challenge you to do the 3-2-1 thing. I can't remember who gave this to me. I think it was Mel Robbins, or the 5-second rule or something like that, but it's 3-2-1, get up, take action. Don't think, don't hesitate, don't allow thoughts to get in the way of the action. Get up, go do the thing. This applies to just about anything and everything that you want to do. Hey, you struggle getting out of bed in the morning because you're tired and groggy and whatever else. Well, that's a belief. It's not true. You're just in a state that isn't serving you. And if you could get past or break past that barrier, wake up every morning at a specific time so that you were tired enough to go to bed at the right time, and then you would wake up in the morning at the same time every day, and you get your sleep cycle in order. Well, how do you do that? 3-2-1, get up, go. If you don't want to do your workout because you're feeling whatever, and this is great for ADHD people or people who have ADD. I'm one of those people, suffered for my entire life with executive dysfunction. I could never convince myself to do something until I heard this saying, I can convince myself to do things I don't want to do, and you can't, and that's why I'm going to win. Look up who said that. I don't want to get into too much about that person, but I thought that was really powerful. So if you can convince yourself to become your own boss, kick yourself in the butt, go out and do the things that you need to do, that's how you do it. Is don't allow yourself to think. Don't allow yourself to think your way out of it. Don't allow yourself to pitch you on the idea that it's not worth it or it's not going to work. You have to get really, really, really good at selling yourself on doing the task, even though you hate it, even though you're scared, even though you're tired, even though you're angry, even though you're sad, whatever it is. All of those things might be true, but at some point you still have to do the thing. So do it angry, do it sad, do it tired, do it sick, do it whatever. Get up, do the thing, 3-2-1 countdown, make it happen. We've covered a lot of ground. I've shared a lot of things with you. I don't know if this was worth it or not, so I need your help to let me know if what I've talked about today resonated with you, landed with you, or had an impact or made a difference. Drop a comment, share it, like it, whatever you got to do. I hate to be that guy that's like reminding you, like, I know you're going to subscribe if you want to. So I want to keep making these things for you. And if you can let me know that it is valuable, just do that by liking or leaving a comment, sharing your experience, sharing your thoughts, asking questions. I will try to answer as many questions as I possibly can. Um, Go check out the free resources that are on my website, devonajones.com. On there, I have a self-worth assessment that will ask you a series of questions, deeply examine who you are and how you're showing up in the world, and then reflect back to you exactly why you are a valuable person, how you can be useful and contribute to the world around you. And it comes with a whole bunch of other stuff, some uh, daily tasks, actions, check-ins, all that sort of thing to help you kind of stay in alignment with that version of you. The one that I love, the thing that I love most about this app is that when you are going into a challenging situation, this has a frame reset tool that's built into it that knows the kind of person you are and the value that you bring. And so if you just kind of describe the scenario that you're walking in, whether it's a first date, job interview, you're asking for a raise, or you have a difficult conversation that you have to have with your parents, whatever it is, you jump into the app, do the frame reset, let it know what's going on, and it's going to help you see exactly how you can show up in that scenario with the things that you're good at, with who all of the value that you hold intrinsically as a human being. Is going to help you just kind of reiterate and re-understand what's there so that you can show up more powerfully in those scenarios. I also have an identity map, and so I touched on ego and identity a couple of times in this one. I'm going to go so much deeper into that. There's a rabbit hole there that I would just like to organize a little bit better for you. However, the Identity Map app is a way for you to truly understand who you are at your core and what represents you in 5 key areas: health, wealth, relationships, self, and spirituality. And in all of these areas, how you're showing up, what's coming up for you, and what's keeping you away from, living in your most ideal self. It's going to show you where you are on a visual map, and then you're going to map out your ideal self. And then over time, through exercises that the app provides for you, you're going to try to find alignment and congruity in your ideal self and the version of you that you are today. And it'll help kind of coach you into becoming that most truest, genuine, ideal self that you can possibly be. And then finally, I got a really easy one here. If love and relationships is a thing that's on your mind right now, the attachment style assessment. This is going to help you understand how you attach to other people and what you can do to change the negative things and double down on the good things about who you are and how you show up in relationships so that you can move away from anxious, avoidant, or disorganized attachment styles into a more secure attachment style where you're showing up truly, positively, and complete and whole in integrity with who you are. All of those apps are 100% free. I will never charge you anything for any of these things. I want you to get in there. I want you to find some value. I want you to use these things and start getting some results for yourself so you can get on that path to becoming the best version of who you are. And as always, if you have any questions or you feel like you need a little bit more guidance, we have workshops, we have mastermind group coaching, and we do the one-on-one thing. So if you want to spend more time with me one-on-one, I can help guide you and coach you through some of these things to get you on that path towards alignment. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching this. And leave a comment or a question if there's anything I can do to help. For now, I will see you in the next episode.